Shalom, Shabbat 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 Shalom. You all came back.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're actually everyone. I could see our participant numbers. Everyone is back. And we're back on Facebook as well. So we're glad that they are back with us as well. I promise you, I did not do that. I promise I had nothing to do with that. But it worked for exactly what I was going to talk about today anyway. You see, what I was going to open up with was, what do we do when maybe our computer isn't working properly? Maybe for me, when I think about like what we do when something isn't working, I think back to like the original Nintendo system, which I'm going to age myself almost exactly, but I got for stopping sucking my thumb. So I got the original Nintendo like 2 years ago. It was great. No, what you do is you turn it off and you turn it back on. And that's actually what we did here. So I promise I did not do that, because I was especially thinking about this tweet that I saw this week. Shabbat is just, have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? But for people. Our Shabbat is our time when we reset. We take a look at the week and we're just like, okay, I need to redo this. I need to like look back and see how everything's going so that I can start next week on an even better way. Maybe it's because your Zoom makes you sound like you're underwater. But our Shabbat and our celebration here on this Shabbat is a time where we all come together in order to unplug, so that we can go back into the world rejuvenated, refreshed, and energized to be good human beings in our world. And I want to invite up to help bring in the warmth of Shabbat. We're going to bring in Jody and Dan Richmond and Jacqueline Richmond, who we are inviting in as a bat mitzvah. There they are. We're so excited, Jacqueline, to have you on the Bima tomorrow to celebrate you and your family as you become a bat mitzvah. But for now, you're going to help us warm our spaces by lighting the Shabbat candles.
Amen. Jacqueline, that was beautiful. Jody and Dan, I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, y'all.
Thank you.
It's really, really special.
We are going to, now that we have that warmth of Shabbat, now we're going to bring in the sweetness of Shabbat with the Goldstein clan, who are going to celebrate Ethan and Charlie's B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow morning, and with your parents, Andrea and Michael.
Andrea, don't get scared. It's not tomorrow morning. I know that it's not tomorrow morning. Andrea is probably like hitting Michael and going, what? It's not in the
afternoon.
Hi, boys.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Borei Peri Hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzav banu. V'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tzion Mitzrayim, ki banu v'charta. V'yanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha v'yahava uvratzon inchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim, drink up. I'm very proud of all three of my students this evening, and I look forward to calling you to Torah tomorrow. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Absolutely. Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Goldsteins and Richmonds. With our warmth of Shabbat, our sweetness of Shabbat, we welcome in that Sabbath spirit with Lecha Dodi on page 138. As we do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And our ninth verse, we rise in body, in spirit, or both for welcoming Shabbat into our spaces.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Yishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nilcha, Ki mekor ha'beracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machashav atzachila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoriri, hitoriri, ki ba'orech u'mi'ori, uri, uri, shir dabiri, k'vod Adonai alayach nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Like any beautiful bride, nothing is more beautiful than the Sabbath bride. Would you please rise for her? Mo'id shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'tola, Toch emunei am segula. Bo'י chala, bo'י chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela.
To prepare us for that feeling of being in prayer and getting ready at that moment, Baruch Hu. Words by Martin Buber. We do not even know how we are supposed to pray. All we do is call for help because of the need of the moment. But what the soul expresses is spiritual need. Only we have no words to convey its meaning. That is why when we ask God to hear our call for help, we also beg the one who knows what is hidden, to hear the silent cry of our soul.
Please rise for Baruch Hu. We're on page 146. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch You're muted.
At the bottom of page 151, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gave to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and grows. Grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than the holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated as we continue with the words of the Haftarah on the next page, 154.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Meretz Mitzrayim, V'hiyot Lachem Le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Emet. Often you'll hear us say Emet just after we say the Ve'ahavta, and that's because there's this little prayer that comes between the Ve'ahavta and between Mi Chamocha, where we thank God time and again for being able to save us from foes who would have destroyed us. And on this Shabbat that comes after Veterans Day, we want to take some time to be able to appreciate those who made sure to do God's work in defending our country and our people from anyone who would harm us. Because of them, we are able to enjoy freedom. Because of them, like the Israelites in days of old, who were able to say emet ve'emunah, who were able to say true and enduring is this gift of freedom. Mi chamocha, who is like God, to be able to give us this kind of freedom. We say thank you to our veterans. In order to do that, we want to introduce to speak a little bit about how time and again over the ages, Jewish soldiers have been so helpful in the armed forces, in the American armed forces. that we'll invite Howard Goldstein, who is the commander for Jewish War Veterans Post 54, which is based out of Lombard, Illinois, and includes Chicago's western suburbs. Howard Goldstein, Commander Goldstein, in addition to his deep involvement and service and leadership positions with the Jewish war veterans, locally, regionally, and nationally, Commander Goldstein has been honored by Illinois governors and other leaders for his ongoing volunteer work at the Hines VA Hospital. Numerous veterans organizations have also appreciated his work and have appreciated his great work with the American Red Cross. Tonight, Commander Goldstein will educate us about the tremendous commitment and sacrifice by Jewish members of the armed services throughout our nation's history. And we want to thank for this opportunity our very special veteran and organizer, Jerry Field, who spearheads all of the amazing work and initiatives of Jewish war veterans post 710 or 710, and all of the work that he does here at Temple Sholom. We appreciate you, Jerry, for all the work that you do, and thank you so much for bringing Commander Goldstein into our midst this evening through this video.
Shabbat Shalom. On behalf of the members of Temple Shalom's Post 710 and my home Post 54 in Lombard, and the members of the other posts in Illinois, I thank you for giving us the time to honor veterans of all wars and religions. Tonight, I want to focus on Jewish war veterans, since our organization, Jewish War Veterans of the USA, is turning 125 years old in 2021. We've been involved in our country's defense before it was a country. My name is Howard Goldstein. I am a Vietnam veteran and a founder and prior post commander of Post 54. I'm currently the commander for the state of Illinois. I'd like to thank Jerry Field, a Korean War vet, for offering me the opportunity to meet with you tonight, if only by Zoom. Jerry is an important part of the work we do in the state organization and is very active in both JWV and community affairs. We Jews of the diaspora have always been a minority in the countries where we have lived. In the 1650s, a small group of Jews settled in New Amsterdam. Governor Stuyvesant ordered they should be exempt from military training and guard duty. The Jewish community protested, and soon we took our place standing guard for the colony. From that time on, we were found in the armed forces of the colonies. When the revolution started in 1776, we were 1% of the almost 2 million inhabitants, and there were Jewish Revolutionary War soldiers. During the Civil War, it was estimated that 7,000 to 8,000 Jews joined the armed forces of the Union, and 2,500 to 3,000 Jews joined the armed forces of the Confederacy. 4 medals of honor were awarded to Jews in the Union Army. Fast forward to the 1890s, the Jews who fought in the Civil War had gone back to their communities and helped in rebuilding the country. In 1894, Harper's Weekly magazine printed remarks from a former Army officer that said in his travels throughout the country, he had never seen or heard of any Jew who had served under the Union banner. Another periodical, the North American Review, published the Jew as an unpatriotic parasite whose only participation in American wars was a camp follower, canteen merchant, or bounty hunter. This characterization was picked up on by famous writer and humorist of the time, Mark Twain, who wrote in late Harper's article, the Jew is, quote, charged with a disinclination patriotically to stand by the flag as a soldier, like the Christian Quaker, unquote. Years later, when the War Department figures revealed Jewish Americans were actually represented in the military's in larger percentage than their share of the population, Twain issued a retraction and an apology entitled, quote, Postscript, the Jews as a Soldier, close quotes. To counter this libel, 63 Jewish veterans came to New York City to form the Hebrew Union Veterans Association. We trace our beginning to this meeting. One of their first acts was that we still perform in conjunction with Memorial Day, is to hold Memorial Day services to honor the fallen Jewish veterans. 2 years later, in 1898, we were at war with Spain. Jews served in the Spanish-American War. Many of its members fought with Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders, and Roosevelt became an honorary member. This public relations coup was one which helped stop the slander about Jews malingering before it could start. The organization helped secure legislation to remove restrictions against Jews serving as officers in the New York National Guard. In 1916, a member of JWV was recognized as the individual most responsible for the national designation of June 14th as Flag Day. JWV joined other Jewish organizations in 1917 to establish a Jewish welfare board, which endorsed rabbis to serve as military chaplains. Our ranks swelled after World War I. In 1924, the organization changed its name to what ultimately became the Jewish War Veterans. In 1925, we published the first issue of our national magazine, The Jewish Veteran, which was snail mail to all members and still is. Several years later, JWV was successful in passing legislation requiring the American Battlefield Monuments Commission to have a Star of David placed on the graves of Jewish soldiers buried in France. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in the beginning of World War II, Jewish war veterans and its associated auxiliary sold $250 million in war bonds and purchased 7 fighter planes. The first was called the Jewish Veteran, the second, the Star of David. JWV also participated in sponsoring several ships for the Navy named for Jewish naval heroes. It's estimated that 550,000 Jewish men and women served in the U.S. Armed Services during World War II. At the time, we made up 3.33% of the population, but 4.23% of the armed forces. In 1944, the JWV joined with other veterans groups to support the passage of the GI Bill of Rights legislation, which provides discharge benefits in housing, education, job training, and disability benefits. In 1948, JWV took responsibility with the approval of the VA for assisting veterans in processing claims. We still do that as a volunteer service organization. In 1948, also, JWV staged the largest parade in Jewish history with more than 250,000 veterans and 90 marching bands marching down Fifth Avenue in New York to support the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine. 1950s brought the Korean War, where 150,000 Jewish Americans served. During the 1960s, JWV was the only veterans organization to join with Reverend Martin Luther King's Civil Rights March at Washington Monument in 1963. JWV joined with other groups in 1966 to lobby successfully for passage of the GI Bill of Rights for Vietnam veterans. During the Cold War from the 1960s and 1990s, JWV worked closely with Israel to assist Soviet Jewry, to include large participation in the March for Soviet Jewry in Washington, D.C. One of our former Department of Illinois commanders and past national commanders, David Himes, who is now 103, and by the way, before COVID still drove to our meetings by himself, tells us that in our heyday, we had over 60,000 members. In 1978, the Post contributed $275,000 to build a Jewish chapel at West Point. During the Cold War, at the suggestion of the Commission of Jewish Chaplaincy, JWV rushed special printing of bug bills to our airlift to U.S. troops in the theater of operations. That year, the USO praised the JWV in Israel for assistance in operating USO centers in Haifa, where U.S. Mediterranean Fleet had a rest and relaxation center. 1996, we turned 100. Our numbers started to dwindle. By 1994, we had 37,250 members. Now, due to an aging population and a decreased number of active military, in 2020, we have fewer than 10,000 members and several hundred posts. We still make a difference in participating in a wide variety of philanthropic and patriotic activities. We're represented in all branches of the military and a greater percentage than the overall population. In a recently completed member survey, we found that the primary reason people joined JWV was to continue to show that Jews serve in the military, help fellow veterans for camaraderie, to help fight anti-Semitism. In support of these reasons, Post 710 is involved in many local efforts, and Temple Shalom's Jerry Field is a well-known figure at Jesse Brown VA Hospital, Cook County Veterans Assistance Program, and many other veterans organizations. My Post 54 volunteers at the Hines VA Hospital and provides meals for veterans at the wards in Hines. We also work with our 9th graders at Congregation Eskaim for the past few years, where we go to Oak Ridge Jewish Cemetery in Hillside to clean headstones and place flags on graves of Jewish veterans during Veterans Day weekend. We were there last Sunday, socially distancing and wearing masks. Kids all felt good about being there. We're also trying to get funding to rebuild the Veterans Memorial there, which is showing its age. At the state level, we are a community partner with the Illinois Holocaust Museum, where we co-sponsor their Liberators events. We also we held before COVID, our monthly department meetings at the museum, and we're looking forward to getting back there. In 1896, our mission to fight anti-Semitism is still an issue. Our 1896 mission continues as anti-Semitism is still an issue. Just our very existence is proof that Americans, Jews, are patriotic and brave, and so since the 1600s. I thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you about Jewish war veterans. There are a number of sons and daughters who had parents who were veterans who did not serve, who have become patrons. There are others who are either not veterans nor not Jewish or nor both, who also support our mission. If you know of any veterans who are Jewish, please have them contact me or other members of JWV. National Guard, reservists, employees of NOAA, and the U.S. Public Health Service are also welcome members. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Commander Goldstein. We pray that Elish Frischman's words come true, that the Mi Chamocha will at some day be a song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. Mi Chamocha is on page 158.
Mi Chamocha, Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh. Now, last week I made you guys do something silly each time you repeated with me. We don't have to do that, but you do have to sing, and I can tell, and I can read lips a little bit. Just saying. Mi Chamocha, Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nora, Nora, Tehilot, Osei, Fele, Nora, Tehilot, Osei, Fele, Malchutecha, Ra'u Banecha, Bokei Hayam, Lifnei Moshe uMiriam, Ze'eli, Anu, Ve'ameru, Adonai, Yimloch, Leolam, Va'ed.
On page 161, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ba'al Yerushalayim. Page 164, if you're able, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasarim Tovim, V'Konei Akol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevig Ula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo, Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמנת על החיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
An invitation to silent prayer by Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook. He writes, the perception that dawns on a person to see the world not as finished, but as in the process of continued becoming, ascending, developing. This changes that person from being under the sun to being above the sun, from the place where there is nothing new to the place where there is nothing old, where everything takes on new form. We appreciate this in this time as an uninterrupted Shabbat on which eternal peace shines. It's a day when, by the nature of its creation, there pulsates a continued thrust for newness. It needs no end, no termination. It is the choicest of days, an ornament of beauty, the source of all blessings that we come to appreciate in these times of silent prayer.
Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, V'goali, V'goali.
In this week's Torah portion, we hear how Isaac was comforted by Rebekah, that Isaac, after he experienced the loss of his mother, was comforted by someone who cared about him, who took the time to be able to be silent, be present, be loving. And sometimes that's what we need when we are experiencing illness, whether it's a new illness or a chronic illness. We need sometimes not only what comes with the cure, but what comes with real healing. And sometimes that's the comfort of loved ones around us. So if you're thinking of someone who's in need of healing, we invite you to unmute and share their name or write their name in the chat.
Liviana Bree Selzer,
Norma Lasco,
Kathy Dorsey,
Flo Kavinsky,
Maggie
Kim
Under,
Yambra,
Karen Platt.
We're also thinking of Marlene Scavuzzo, Gary Schroeder, Elaine Baddock, Rochelle Baddock, Jonathan Spitz and Jack Mosher, Betty Donahue, Laura Gable, Marge Hilliard, Gigi Green and Debbie Frank, Elizabeth DeBrune, Alec Gelatin, and Dr. Stephen Migalski, Gino, Dennis, and Dan, Sarita Reed, Larry Letterman, Marcia Scavuzzo and Colleen, Carl Desco, Melissa Josephs, Beata, Jerry Field and Dee Dee Cohn, Avner Drucker and Eric Boyd, Don Sable, Jim Clemens, Kate Sable, Parker Benton, Phyllis Simon and Bill, Nancy Goldberg, Sarah Roshwarg, Darlene Carroll, Harriet Berger, Hazel Lee, Stephen Razumna, Andy Rios and Eddie Rocha, Miriam Paz, Rachel Kaplan, Joella Amos, Bruce Trannon, Ruth Jablonski, Nathan Welmers, Jacob Seltzer, Odelia Amor, Jeremiah Sharkey, and Samaj Sharkey.
as well as the names of Stevie Marks, Flo Bernberg, Lottie Steinman, and April and Tate Stumpf.
We hold all of them in our hearts as we sing these words that are on page 371.
Mishabeirach avotenu makor habracha leavotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabeirach imotenu v'kor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Rabbi Singer in just a little bit will be sharing with us some beautiful words before Kaddish. So before we sing our Aleinu, before we sing that prayer, we have some announcements to make about the different things that are going on at the synagogue. One thing that's so special is that tonight there is a 3rd through 5th grade get together, a gathering after services. We already see a lot of you here tonight for this service. It means a lot to see you. We can hardly wait to see you after the service as you're hanging out and have so much fun. We're also looking forward to next Friday night when we have a Shabbat Mishpacha. We have a special service. And we're excited for the 3rd grade's participation in that service, as well as hearing a wise and a great story for all ages by Rabbi Gelman. Are there other things that we want to be able to announce for tonight, beloved clergy?
I'd like to share that your Temple Sholom Justice group is doing our annual Hanukkah box delivery for those fellow Jews who are in need during the Hanukkah season, and we are in need of drivers. So if you have access to a car, we are in need of drivers, and you could find the info for that in the e-blast.
I would also like to add that the Makom 20s and 30s group is doing a Friendsgiving Shabbat next Friday night, which will include a cocktail demonstration, some autumnal delicious food, and so we're very excited to see everybody there. You can sign up through our Makom listserv.
I love how we always are able to make good cocktails and mocktails. I can hardly wait to hear about it, and who knows, maybe even get a good recipe to try. I'll also say that I know that for some of us, as we were hearing about the newer restrictions on houses of worship, that I know that some of you might have been worried about what's going to happen with our Monday meal, what's going to happen as people are gathering outside to get their meals. And we want to reassure you that we've talked to the city, and for sure, anything around food distribution and making sure that people who are hungry can come and eat, we're making sure that everyone can feel safe and loved and fed. So with that, we turn to page 586 to the bottom of that page. If you're able, please rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
In my second year of rabbinical school, there was a day on the calendar that we jokingly referred to as Death Day. This was the day we spent at a funeral home on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, learning about the Jewish business of death. We walked through a quiet room full of differently decorated caskets, past a chamber where a body was being kept before burial. There was an elderly man sitting in front of the door reciting psalms. This practice stems from an old Jewish custom in which we believe that it is important to keep a body company while it waits to be buried. Finally, we entered the room where tahara is performed. I'm sure some of you know, tahara is the ritual washing of a dead body, a practice where a specially trained group of people, known as a chevra kadisha, or a holy group, wash the body, preparing it for burial. Seeing these practices up close didn't feel morbid or creepy. It felt intimate and respectful. We care for and accompany and wash Jewish bodies, not as a way to prepare them for a next world, but as a symbol of our awe for the entire world that each of these precious lives once contained. So much of Jewish practice and ritual from birth to death is geared towards celebrating and honoring the extraordinary miraculousness of life. This is why when I read the news throughout the day, I have to start asking the question, what effect does it have on us daily to hear about so many deaths? We have lost so much to the coronavirus. I am worried that one of the many things we are beginning to lose is our perspective on the sacredness of life. What does it do to our psyche to speak and read every day of numbers and statistics that continue to climb astronomically? What will be the perspective of children and teenagers who grew up in a time where it became normal, or it felt normal, for 1,000 Americans to die of this virus every day? I ask these questions not to bring more fear into our hearts, which I think there is plenty of, and not to suggest that we should stop reading the news or start ignoring our current reality, but because I think that we need to continue to reflect on how we metabolize this level of tragedy. In this week's Torah portion, Chaye Sarah, Sarah dies. Yet so much of this chapter is devoted to the ways in which Abraham mourns her. In Abraham's mourning of Sarah, we begin to see the ways in which mourning, which is directly acknowledging and responding to loss, reminds the mourner not just of the tragedy of death, but also of the sanctity of life. The story tells us that Sarah dies and that Abraham proceeds to mourn for Sarah and to wail from the weight of the loss. I love that our ancestors from the beginning, regardless of gender, model wailing, loud, frenetic, uncontrolled bursts of emotion. We can't spend all of our days wailing about the tragedy of this moment, but we can honor those who have died by continuing to acknowledge the immense strangeness of all of this loss. I spoke with a community member this week who had lost a family member. This person shared with me that while trying to face the enormity of this loss is often overwhelming, they appreciate the way in which the Kaddish gives them a few minutes every Shabbat to sit with their sadness. In this moment, as COVID cases continue to climb, and as we continue to increase our personal safety precautions, let's honor those who have lost their lives to this pandemic by taking a moment to sit in our sadness. Let's allow ourselves little bits of time throughout the week to have moments of shock and grief. Let's keep fighting together for the sacredness of life. We take a moment now to share the names of those we have lost, those who we're in mourning for, whether in the last week, the last month, the last year, or in previous years at this time. If there's someone you're thinking of and you'd like to share their name out loud, please do so by unmuting yourself or typing their name in the chat.
Howard Vian, Sandra Goinshore.
Because I don't think they could hear me.
Betty Norman.
Michael Cooper.
Hazel Schreiber.
Adam Schwartzman, Leon Schwartzman, Henrik Schwartzman, Solomon Schwartzman.
Harriet Evnan.
Lean Quinn.
Sylvia Katz.
Judd Weinberg, Hal Kay, and Linda Scher.
I was going to say Rudy's name. Can I talk now? Yeah. Rudy Fernandez.
Erwin Kornblum.
That's all.
We add to those names Elise Dumack, Barbara Doherty, Macrina Whitaker, Rosemary Ward, Maxine Fries, Janet Donald and Susan Sipes, Dr. Erwin Kornbluth, Laura Roth, John M. Griffith, John Lamp, Howard Radner, Ronald Kotler, Alice Siegel, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Edward Razumna and Shirley Razumna, Helen Shoshin, Minnie Razumna, Ben and Dina Carasso, Brian Lasser, as well as Edward Richmond, Ross Garfinkel, Ada Stock, Jackie Vaughn, Eileen Watson, Francis Mills, Troy Lindquist, Neharushula Naomi Solomons, James Bartmus, Sanford Berg, Floanne Skalbina, Louis Batita, Janice Cherney, Gordon DeCook, Lawrence Friedman, H. Samuel Gold, Sonia Witzke Gold, Morton Greenberg, Fritz Gutman, Wendy Hirschtritt, Judy Kaddish, Arthur Kaplan, Sylvia Katz, Ronald Kotler, Ruth Lash, Brian Lasser, Helene Levine, Joanne Snyder-Lewison, E. Paul Lichtenstein, Morris Lustig, Joanna Nussbaum, Jacob J. Pedakowski, Max Pildis, Mary Jean Poirar, Howard Radner, Saul Reifler, Martha Rosen, Minnie Rudich, Dr. Leslie Radoy, Jason Samuels, Danny Monis Shaw, Hazel Schreiber, Minnie Schulman, Isidore Siegel, Helene Scutch, Leslie Stackler, Rose Stammel, Rose Stein, Tamara Schwartzman, Jacob Koth, Barry Weiss, Rose Welch, Louis Werhane, Gerald Wexler, Barry Yanow, Herod Zarkadis, and Isabel Zimmerman. We rise and turn to Kaddish, the Kaddish on page 591.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomachon uv'chaye dochol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol virchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalom araba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu be'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom imromav, huyaseh shalom aleinu be'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom imromav, huyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru imru. Amen.
What's our closing song tonight, Cantor Ben David?
You know what? So, everyone turn to page 681. And after the beautifully spoken words about the history of our people at war, but also the brave, courageous spirit of our people when they serve in all ways. And so we are going to sing America the Beautiful. Page 681. Did I say it correct? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet who stern in passion stress, a thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness. America, America, God mend thy every flaw, confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. I bet you never heard these beautiful words and you haven't sung these in a while. Take them in. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, a mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his thy grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Shabbat Shalom, America and Temple Sholom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.